Wake up to reality.
Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. What I wanted you guys to look at is every time I try to do a show, a reenactment, or whatever term you need to understand the direction that we need to go. Yes, you guys know I'm with the synonyms. You know I'm with the homonyms. You know I'm with all those words of terminology. I wanted you guys to understand what I wanted to show you. When I made a statement in a post replying to someone else on TikTok and on YouTube. And all I was saying to counteract their statement was, black people offer up their own people. And me and that individual went back and forth because of the term offering up or sacrifice. When you are having a conversation with many black Americans play ignorant, play stupid, and play dumb. What they don't like is they don't like to be revealed. Think of it like this. We know that in the black community, we have a gender war. So if you're speaking of a gender war, the gender war would go, black men are such and such and yada yada. What black men will do is say, if we're speaking about black men will step in to defend black women and say, it's not black women's fault, it's white supremacy. As long as black men are saying it's not her fault, it's someone else's fault, or it's something else's fault, for the most part, the women are going to allow the men to lie for them. As long as black men are saying it's not her fault, it's someone else's fault, or it's something else's fault, for the most part, the women are going to allow the men to lie for them. As long as black men are saying it's not her fault, it's someone else's fault, or it's something else's fault, for the most part, the women are going to allow the men to lie for them. You so right. I never thought of it that way. They're going to allow them to lie for them until another individual comes up and says and challenges that thought. So if another individual comes up and challenges that thought, then we're going to play the word semantics. Then we're going to move the goalposts. Then we're going to gaslight. Then we're going to shame. Then we're going to insult. Then we're going to do a lot of things to deflect. Well, what I wanted to show you guys when it pertains to race relations and why many of us don't seem to get it. You must understand, it's not the fact that they don't understand how to read. It's not the fact that they don't know what 1 + 1 is. You must understand, black America has already surrendered to white supremacy. The only people that have not surrendered to white supremacy, the dominant society, are your grassroots. We're the ones that push back. What you have here is you have Shannon Sharpe. You're going to have, I'm trying to illustrate to you guys, show you guys, Shannon Sharpe, Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and some others, because the list goes on. But because you got to read the comment section as well. The list goes on because individuals are trying to tell the dominant side society or massa their point of view, LeBron James, their point of view, so that when the hammer strikes, they don't get that backlash or fallout. Think of it as a slave who is disgruntled for whatever reason, or runaway slave. If that runaway slave gets caught or is identified that he either had plans of running away, made plans of running away, whatever, when that individual gets caught or when that individual is found out to have left, what they will do is they will corral all the slaves. They will corral ALL, and they will try to interrogate, investigate, and ask questions of the remaining slaves who knew about it. Because in their mind, you don't do anything on your own. In their mind, they think of everything as you had to have help. So since they think of everything as he had to have help, they will reach out to anybody they think that has an idea that this individual was going to run away. And the history shows that if someone knew that that individual planned to run away, planned a riot, or whatever, the reason why I use the word whatever, because it's words. Use whatever word you want to put in there. I'm always talking about behavioral patterns and talking points. Behavioral patterns and talking points. Some of these behavioral patterns are just internal. They're innate. That's just what people do. And then some of these behavioral patterns are socialization. They're socialized. So if you change the rules of that environment, then the behavior will change. And I get it. But I'm also trying to always give you both sides of that particular coin. Some of them are just the way people are. Some of them is environmentally induced. Meaning if the environment wasn't structured the way it is, the individual would not act or react the way that they currently are acting or reacting. A lot of words. So when those individuals are corralled up or rolled up or put in a not necessarily an interrogation room, because that's on modern terms, but if you was to go back toward slavery time, they would get a lot of people up in a group and they would ask questions to the whole group. Well, people have tell signs. It's like when you're playing cards. You have tell signs, you have markers. And when the right people see those markers or tell signs, they will make the distinction between those who know and those who don't know. So those who don't know, that they can make a clear understanding that they don't know, they'll separate them. Okay, well, you guys are free to go. Now, the ones that give some telling signs or a little too confusing for them to read, they may make them stick around. And they're going to torture those individuals until they get the answers they're looking for. And in many cases, some people may die as a result to the torture because they didn't know, they told the truth, they didn't know, but their tell signs was so confusing that the people couldn't understand if they knew something or if they didn't know something, but they paid the price regardless. It still makes the other slaves behave. Well, in modern day times, these are the same behavioral patterns. I explained to you many times, you don't get the job. You do not fill out the application unless you're willing to do whatever that job says. This is what you're willing to do before you put your name on that application. This is the reason why you want a job there. So you got a certain people group that says, well, they didn't know, they were confused, they were tricked, they were this. Then you got another group that, nah, y'all knew what y'all were doing. That's why y'all went in that direction. I'm under the mindset, nah, y'all know what y'all are doing. This is why y'all go in that direction. Where I'm constantly trying to tell you, don't go in that direction. Do your own thing. Well, don't do your own thing, but don't go that high up on the ladder. I'm constantly saying these things. So, because I'm telling you, people are aware. When you start to read the comment sections of whatever it is you're viewing or posting or watching, you will start to understand people do know. It's not that they don't know. They do know. What they don't want is the backlash of making the choice. Why are you mad at me? So, I'm here to put food on my table. I don't know what you talking about. Well, in order to put food on your table in many of these jobs, it's not as simple as clocking in, clocking out, doing your job, moving a box here, getting up a spill here. In many of your jobs, you have a job to where you got to throw other black people under the bus. So if you have a job to where you have to throw other black folks under the bus, You knew you had to throw other black folks under the bus, but that is your way to get economically advanced. I want you guys to hear. I'm going to give you some terms. I'm going to give you some terms because I'm a word guy, and I try to explain to you guys, these are what your people are doing while we are not advancing as a group. You have people that are selling us out. You have go-betweens. What is a go-between? Fancy words, yes. Your layman's terms, a go-between is a person that intervenes, is a person that steps in the midst of conflict. Doesn't really have to be conflict, but I'm using the term because it could be a go-between. Even a cock blocker is a go-between. You want something and they want something, but this person is going to be put in the middle, is going to be wedged in the middle in order to either keep the peace or stir something up. These terms go both ways, a positive way and a negative way. The thing I need you guys to focus on, a person that gets in between. They're steerers. You know what a steerer is? Between, like, say if you're in the car and you're on the steering wheel, you're going to steer that wheel to go in either direction, left or right, straight or otherwise. You have a herder. A herder is an individual that primarily herds goats, sheep, cattle, farm life. Their job is to make sure that animal life goes left, right, forward, or stays put. Wherever they want to go, that job is meant for that individual to steer that animal life, farm life, wildlife in the direction that that steerer sees fit. You have a gatekeeper. We all understand gatekeepers are individuals that for the most part stand at the gate and they determine who goes in or who goes out. But it's not just as simple as in and out. It's also the direction of topics, the direction of life, of politics, entertainment. They're gatekeepers. They determine the way that civilians act or interact. It's not just about breaking into an industry. You have coolers. Well, when you're in the casino and you're making a lot of money and you're in your hot spot, they have a person that comes around, male or female, and that person is meant to get you off of your game. Okay, well, we can see that that person's in a winning streak, so we got to send something or send someone over there to break that individual's winning streak. That's called a cooler. Cool that down. You have guard dogs. We already know what guard dogs do. They sit at a certain point, either your property, your individual property, or a protected property, and they just monitor. They just watch what's going on. They make sure nothing gets in or nothing gets out. That's all they do. But they're there. You have sentinels. We all know what sentinels. These are terms in which I'm trying to get you to understand the goal of all of these terms or mediator is to run a certain form of interference. They're to stop something or they're to start something. But I need you to understand, when you see people jump out in front of something that has nothing to do with them, this is a conversation between A and B. You can see your way out of it. So if you guys remember those childhood things, this is a conversation between Kyrie and the general public. So if it's a conversation between Kyrie, news reporter, general public, how does anybody else get in the mix? How does Dr. J come out of nowhere and speak on it? How does LeBron James come out of nowhere and speak on it? How does Stephen A. Smith come out of nowhere and speak on it? How does anybody get in the mix that have nothing to do with it? Remember, every time you hear something about black gangsters, every time you hear something about black bloods, Crips, Vice Lords, Gangster Disciple, it's, I plead the fifth, no comment. So if we understand, keep your mouth shut, if we understand dry snitching, if we understand snitching, how come those same principles are not used here? So what I'm saying to you, when I give you these run-on temper tantrums or run-on conversations, this is why we're in the situations we're in. We have a group of us that want to be a part of white society. Then we have a group of us that don't. But the only way that the group that wants to be a part of society is able to be a part of white society is they have to sacrifice somebody. Your Shannon Sharps, your LeBron James, your Charles Barkley's, they work for the dominant society. And they're going to keep working for the dominant society, not because the dominant society has a ton of money. They're going to keep working for the dominant society because even though they've revealed themselves, their face, their hand, their card 1,000 times, you, the general public, you keep supporting them. You keep watching Shannon Sharp shows. You keep supporting something Shannon Sharp's name is attached to. You keep watching the NBA. You keep watching something that Shaq is involved in. You keep supporting them. So instead of pulling back and interfering with their power or their economics, you keep giving to their power and economics. I want you to listen to what Shannon Sharp says. Listen to what he says.
Yep, this is Kyrie. This is who he is. You know he's going to dig in now because he's caught backlash. Nick Friedel challenged him. Joe Side tweeted at him. Wish he'd have just pulled him into a room and had a conversation. Just because he tweets something, that doesn't mean you have to compound an issue by tweeting back at him. Just call him in. Hey, you're the owner. Just say, Kyrie, I'd like to talk to you about something that you posted. Look, Kyrie always wants you to think. He went to Duke. He wants you to think that he's a physicist and he's the smartest guy in the room and he's a conspiracy theorist. And he says, well, what if that didn't happen? I know, okay, I understand that it could have, but what if it didn't? Okay, even if it did happen, what if it didn't happen? What if who were actually responsible for it wasn't really responsible for it? See, that's how he does. And he's like, I just want to play devil's advocate. So I mean, personally, Skip, I don't listen to anything Kyrie has to say. I think he's a phenomenal basketball player, but he just says a whole lot of stuff, and there are enough of his followers because he has a large enough platform. They're gonna say, Kyrie, you right. And the more people all he needs is one person to tell him that he's right, other than himself, and he's gonna keep it going. And so for me, this is, I ain't got no problem with freedom of speech. Freedom of speech in America does not mean you're free of consequences in America.
I'm going to cut it short because he's babbling. The moment you heard him say, I don't listen to him. He went to Duke. He studies physics. And he makes himself seem like he's the smartest guy in the room. You heard him say those words. That's that's being condescending or condescendingly. He's being condescendingly. He's speaking in a manner that says he got a little bit of knowledge, but he don't know all that he think he knows. So therefore, we don't need to listen to him. What that signal sends to the dominant society is, not me, boss. I don't think the way he think. Not me, boss. Not me, sir. No, sir. I don't know who he is. I don't know who his peoples is. I don't know where he's from. But that ain't the way I sees it, boss. That's what Shannon Sharp is doing. And the reason why I'm trying to give you guys what they did 3 to 4 weeks ago is because I'm trying to tell you how they tried to get ahead of the crowd. They tried to get ahead of the backlash. They tried to get ahead of the dominant society punishing other folks, other black folks. When I show you these things, again, these are patterns. These are talking points. And this is the way your fathers think. This is the way your sons think. This is the way your nephews think. This is the way the black population thinks. They are afraid of white people. So instead of saying, yo, I ain't got nothing to do with that. He said what he said. He said what he said. Every time it's a black on black conversation, it's I said what I said. They get all tight. They get all tough. They get all, you ain't gonna make me say it, you ain't gonna make me apologize. What? When it's black on black conversation, everybody becomes Superman. But when it's white on black conversation, black folks become very, very humble. Instantly. So I'm going to give you another one, another clip.
I was probably one of the first guys on Twitter. And when I realized the power it had, I knew I had to be very responsible. Followers, platform, whatever you call it, I knew I had to be responsible. I try to make people happy. I try to make people smile. My formula has always been the same. 60% to make you laugh, 30% to inspire you, and 10% whatever I'm selling. You have to be aware of what you're doing. And you have to be aware that sometimes when you put stuff out, not everybody's gonna like it. Some people are conscious, some people are not. I could tell he's not conscious. Some people are conscious, some people are not. I could tell he's not conscious. Some people are conscious, some people are not. I could tell he's not conscious. I could tell he's not. He doesn't really care what's going on. But us. I know that the game that we used to love and we promote, it brings people together. And it hurts me sometimes when we have to sit up here to talk about stuff that divides the game. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. So I don't really want to sit up here and answer questions for what he's done. If you're looking at me, it's my job to make people happy. I can't speak for him and answer for what he's doing. It's obviously by his answers and the way he answers, he doesn't really care. Chuck.
This motherfucker sat up here and said, damn right, they make me this way. I really spend the majority of my time not using inflammatory language. But there are weak men in the black community that think this way, and they're in your barbershops, they're at the supermarket, they're at the grocery stores, they're at your convenience stores, they're at your corner stores, they're in your bloodline. And I explained to you guys on many occasions, I have to separate from mainstream society, and because I know coward behavior. I didn't get this way just cause. It's when certain things happen and I want to do certain things about it, I've learned that the reason why we can't pop off like we're supposed to pop off is because these people are amongst me. They're in the churches, they're in your taxis, they're driving your Greyhound buses, they're everywhere. And you can be having a conversation, and I promise you'll have a conversation. And it ain't about nothing real. It's just two individuals having a good time. And this individual will say something slick or triggering. And I would ask myself, well, where does that come from? But I wouldn't press it. I would just try to get a better understanding of where it's coming from. Who says something like that? Who thinks like that? Then over the course of time, you start asking the right questions and you start listening, you start learning. Oh, now I know where that comes from. No wonder it went left. These are people that don't want to fight white people. These are people that are coward in nature. This man sat up here and says he's not conscious. Why would he insult his intelligence? Again, not me, boss. Not me, massa. I don't know what he talking about. I heard what you said, and I read the good book every day. And the good book don't say nothing like that. He does not know what's going on. So this male is able to play basketball. This male is able to graduate from a fairly good college. And all of a sudden, he's not using his brain. The male, we have to answer for what he's done. Why do you got to answer for what he's done? Listen. What he said is, again, I'm paraphrasing because of time. You don't want to sit up there and treat it like a manuscript and say it verbatim. If you want to hear what he said verbatim, you can always roll it back. He said Adams should have suspended him. The NBA made a mistake, and they keep insulting him. Idiot. Guys, you got to better understand. You're not going to be able to fix these problems as long as you keep putting money in these men's pockets. And you got to be careful how you say money, because money should not be the key. However, white supremacy breaks their tools when they realize they're no longer effective. Effective with an A or effective with an E. When they realize those tools are no longer working, then they will be removed. The problem is, I need you guys to understand behavioral patterns and talking points so that when these guys age out, or when these guys expire, or when these guys no longer seem to be relevant, or when these guys no longer have the persuasion of power or power of persuasion, and they render themselves useless, they're going to replace them with a successor. It is not someone that we chose from the grassroots. However, it will be someone who still has the ability, male or female, to push the same type narrative, which that black folks are supposed to behave, be subservient, and listen. Don't rock the boat. Don't make waves. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why do any of you have to answer for the actions of another human being? Why do any of you have to answer for the actions of another human being? Why do any of you have to answer for the actions of another human being? Make that make sense, Black America. None of you guys are answering for Jesse James. None of you guys are answering for Billy the Kid. So why do you guys got to answer for Kyrie? Ask yourself, these guys, why I got to be on a hot seat for what he said or what he did? Why do you think he said that? Remember when Steve Harvey and Monique were going through it, and Steve Harvey was talking about economics and Monique was talking about integrity, and then Steve Harvey sat up there and say, I ain't gonna go broke for no integrity. I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to get some money because I can't feed my kids on integrity. When he said that, the audience clapped, cheered. And then when Monique hit him with that ooh-ah, she hit him with a gut shot. Broke 6 of his ribs on one shot. And she said, my brother, but that's the problem. We can't keep doing the money over integrity. Because if we keep doing the money over the integrity, very soon they won't have to really pay us what we're worth because we'll accept anything. And you won't have this is me now speaking, you won't have a future for your children because you didn't have the integrity to say no to certain things. And when Monique, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not speaking absolute verbatim. When Monique said what she said, it stunned the whole crowd. You guys better understand, y'all are some coward people. You're cowardly because you are not willing to do what you're supposed to do. This is the kicker. You are responsible for certain things before you leave this earth. Whether it's internal or external interference. You, sir, you, ma'am, you have certain duties and you have certain responsibilities that you must execute before you leave this earth. And it doesn't matter who gets in your way. And what you people are doing is because you don't want to do what you're supposed to do, you're running around on any and all forms of escapism, not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then when that pressure hits, when that pressure valve gets, that needle gets all the way to the, hey, danger, danger, danger. Instead of you doing what your training told you to do, instead of you doing what your history told you you're supposed to do, you surrender. Y'all don't have to answer for nobody. Remember, I said what I said. Remember, all you got to do is go, you got to take that up with him. I don't know where that comes from. And then get back to the business. Yo, did you see NBA? Did you see the sports? He scored 32 points. But you don't stay there and let them dump on you or put on you someone else's words. Let him speak for himself. And if he is not able to, leave it alone at that. It's not our job. Only thing that we're supposed to do is shut our mouths. And when he does say SOS, then we move But we don't do what this coward Mel did. Now we have to answer for him. No, y'all don't. Shut your mouth.
I think the NBA dropped the ball.
In what way?
I think he should have been suspended. I think Adam should have suspended him. First of all, Adam's Jewish. You can't take my $40 million and insult my religion. You're going to insult me, you have the right, but I have the right to say, no, you're not going to take my $40 million and insult my religion. I think the NBA, they made a mistake. We have suspended people and fined people who have made homophobic slurs, and that was the right thing to do. I think if you insult the black community, you should be suspended or fined heavily, depending. I saw they did the same thing to the kid in Minnesota this year when he made the gay slur. I think you should get suspended or fined. I think him acknowledging the Alex Jones thing should have happened with that too, because that dude's crazy. And I can't believe that we ain't talking about that. We're talking about this idiot. I can't believe that we ain't talking about that. We're talking about this idiot. I can't believe that we ain't talking about that. We're talking about this idiot, about this idiot, about this idiot. And when you say, if I say, hey, I'm agreeing with this movie, this book, or whatever, I'm agreeing with it. I'm not going to first of all, you know I don't do any social media, but when you're somebody as great as basketball like him, people going to listen to you, what you say. And there's some fringe people out there, but like I say, I blame the NBA. He should have been suspended.
This week about Kyrie Irving's social media posts and subsequent comments. I was just curious, why do you think that is, considering this league is so socially conscious?
I'm not sure. If you want to ask me a question, you can ask me. I can't speak for 449 players.
Sure. Certainly your position, you've been in the position best to speak for the league.
I can tell you this. It's simple. Me personally, I don't condone any hate to any kind, to any race, to Jewish communities, to black communities, to Asian communities. You guys know where I stand, and it's part of the reason why I didn't air the Shop episode, why we kicked that, out of the archives, because it was hate conversation going on there, and I don't represent that. There's no place in this world for it. Nobody can benefit from that, and I believe what Kyrie did caused some harm to a lot of people. What Kyrie did caused some harm to a lot of people. What Kyrie did caused some harm to a lot of people, and he has since over the last, I think today or was it yesterday, he apologized, but he caused some harm, and I think it's unfortunate, but I don't stand on the position to harm people when it comes to your voice or your platform or anything. And so it doesn't matter what color your skin is, how tall you are, what position you are in. If you are promoting or soliciting or saying harmful things to any community that harm people, then I don't respect it. I don't condone it.
He doesn't condone it. I'm showing you how they send their people out to control the minds of the population. None of these men should have spoke a word. But these men are on that payroll, and I don't mean dollars. I mean their job not only is to be NBA, their job is to run interference. Their job is to be a go-between. Their job is to be a herder. Their job is to be a steerer. Their job is to be a cooler. Their job to be guard dogs. Their job is to be sentinels. Their job is to be a mediator. Their job is to be an individual that will go out there and either ask for your regular population, your regular civilians, is it okay if we chastise, penalize, or punish one of your own? Or their job is to go out there and calm people down once the dominant society does what they do. That's their job. And I need you guys to understand the behavioral pattern and talking points, because the behavioral pattern talking points under any name remains the same. You've heard all these three guys, and you've heard them in your own time, plus what I'm doing, plus what other people are doing. You've heard them in your own time, your own way, and you've drawn your own conclusion about the matter. The matter isn't simply, okay, well, you're telling me something I already know. The issue really is, remember, every time we have these discussions, they go, okay, but what's the solution? I'm giving you the information, I'm speaking whatever way I'm speaking, and then you say, okay, what's the solution? Then that means conversation is over, because I'm not supposed to tell you what to do. You're supposed to get the information, understand how they have leverage or advantage or power over us. Then you, sir, you, ma'am, come up with a solution that best fits you and your family, as long as it does not go against the greater good, nor does it go against the best interests of future generations. Now, look at your screen. Kyrie Irving, New York Times. Kyrie Irving is not anti-Semitic. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says. So when you heard Charles Barkley say Adam should have punished him, that behavioral pattern and that talking point is, well, massa, well, boss, we know what he did was wrong. So whatever you see is a fit to teach him a lesson, we's okays with it, as long as yous don't mess with the rest of us. Because the rest of us, we don't think so that way. The rest of us, we believe you. And he shouldn't have hurt nobody feeling. That's what those patterns are. That's what those behavioral talking points are. So in the other breath, it's, well, those guys are protecting us because white backlash is going to come on us, and they're going to stop us from this, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that. They're already doing it. They're not going to stop them from doing anything. So we're going to let LeBron James, we're going to let Kyrie, we're going to let Shannon Sharp, we're going to let Charles Barkley stand up and defend the rest of us helpless little podunks. Because we can't afford people like Kyrie or Kanye or Ye to keep saying and doing what stays are doing. So if Charles Barkley, if Shaquille O'Neal, if Shannon Sharp are brave enough to speak up for us, they's doing the right thing, I tell you. Black folks offer up their own people to be slaughtered. Then this is what happens. I got you on the screen, and I'm wanting you to look at the screen so you can read it for yourself. Kyrie Irving is not anti-Semitic, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says. Irving of the Nets guard met with Silver this week after promoting an anti-Semitic film on social media last month. Silver says Irving's actions were damaging. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said Thursday that he didn't believe Nets guard Kyrie Irving was anti-Semitic after meeting with him. Listen to their words, after meeting with him in person this week at the league's headquarters in Manhattan. Irving has been facing backlash for promoting an anti-Semitic film on Twitter last month. We had a direct, candid conversation, Silver, who is Jewish, said in an interview with the New York Times, adding, he's someone I've known for a decade. So after we met, and then you've known him for a decade, that's contradiction right there now, isn't it? Maybe if you would have said after we sat down, maybe you would have said, maybe the sentence structure should have said after a lunch, after we got together, but not after we met. Read it. Read it. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said Thursday he didn't believe Nets guard Kyrie Irving was anti-Semitic after meeting with him in person. Meeting with him in person at the league's headquarters. Sentence structure is very, very funny. And sometimes you can see the double, sometimes the entendre, sometimes you can see the sleight of hand, sometimes you can't. After having a dinner, after having a lunch, something to indicate we've known each other for 10 years. I've known about you for 10 years. So once we sat down and we had lunch, once we sat down and we had brunch, once we got together over around the court, golf, something, you guys know words. And you know present, you know current, future, and past tense sentence structure. They teach you that all day in elementary, high school. How to say the same thing, and you can say it in first person, second person, or third person. We had a direct and candid conversation, Silver, who is Jewish, said in an interview with the New York Times, adding he's someone I've known for a decade, and I've never heard an anti-Semitic word from him or, frankly, hate directed at any group. In a follow-up phone conversation, Silver added, whether or not he is anti-Semitic is not relevant to the damage caused by posting the hateful content. Silver declined to elaborate on his meeting with Irving, citing an agreement with him to keep the details of their conversation private. Guys, you got to read this for yourself. You already know us at the New York Times. And what I'm trying to explain to you before a week goes by, before 2 weeks go by, is the powers that be are going to recant their position. In the beginning, they were ready to crucify him for whatever reason, but they were going to do it. And we, the civilian population, were okay with them doing it as long as we, the civilian population, do not get penalized or hurt as a result of them not being able to punish him. So if you can't punish him, they're under the mindset they're going to punish us. So what many of us did is we offered him up, or we allowed them to begin to crucify him. Well, some people push back. When some people push back over the course of time, and you can see when they said they were going to drop Kyrie from Nike and they were going to drop Kanye from Adidas, their stocks plummeted. When their stocks plummeted, that sent a message to the powers that be and said, y'all going to have to fix this. Yeah, ADL, yeah, fix it. Now those people that wanted flesh have to recant their statement, recant their position. They're going to have to change. They can't go after him. Not the way that they were going to go after him. We have power if only we stand on it. And when we see Barclays, when we see traders, when we see Tiffany Crosses, when we hear Patrice Cullors, when we see and or hear members of our tribe, members of our community go against members of our tribe or members of our community, specifically for the dominant society, not because they did something wrong, not because it's not in the best interest of future generations, not because they're not going to politically move in our best interest, but solely or specifically because they are afraid of white backlash, we have to move. Right now, it's time to shut them all down. Shut them all down. The problem, you can't shut down the dominant society until you are willing and able to shut down members of your own family. Because you, sir, you, ma'am, you may be willing to let it burn, but you got 5 brothers and you got 3 sisters, and they're willing to uphold the system. You have a mother and you have a father, and those people are willing to uphold the system. So you either got to separate from them once and for all and click up with the men and the women that understand it got to change. It has to change. Or those men and women who outnumber you are going to be the cause of future generations being at a disadvantage. They outnumber us. Family, you must understand it's not about right, wrong. It's not about math. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's not 3 + 5 = 8. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that they outnumber us. And they are more afraid of the dominant society than we are. We are really going to have to pay attention to the politics. We are really going to have to pay attention to the science. We are really going to have to pay attention to the history. We are really going to have to pay attention to people's words, actions, speech, behavioral patterns. We are really going to have to sit there, and our wives or our fiancés or our live-in mates, husbands, we're going to have to really sit there and ask them the politics. Hey, yo, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And you're going to have to really get the research, and don't challenge. The goal is not to challenge. The goal is to learn. So when I ask a question, what is your thoughts on polygamy? That individual is supposed to answer with information, informed information. If that individual say, I don't know, I don't like it, down you got to ask the question why. But on average, just ask the question. We don't challenge. This is why every time you ask a question and they answer, why? Where does the water come from? Why? How did it get there? Why? Who put it there? Why? How long is it going to be there? Why? Well, why don't you know? Well, you're supposed to know, aren't you? Well, what are you doing to find out? Always ask why. Why? So much to the point where 2 things are going to happen. They're going to reveal their personal bias, that they are coward and they're scared, or they're going to reveal that other part, that they are aware, but they're deliberately not contributing or contributing. And we can't stay here. This is a sidebar. Black women do not want black men, African American men. Black women believe in their heart of hearts that we are the worst of the worst of the worst. And she's right. She's right in her context. She's wrong in actuality. So you will hear me say she's right, but she's wrong. You will hear me contradict myself. I'm contradicting myself, but I'm telling you I'm contradicting myself because I'm trying to get you to understand where black women are coming from. Black men, sidebar, are the biggest problem to black men. Well, why would you say that? I'm speaking about Kyrie Irving and how you will have go-betweens, you will have gatekeepers, you will have coolers, you will have buffers come out and interfere with the minds of the general masses, the general populace. So how does that work with women and men? It's a go-between. It's a buffer. And the gender is immature. The female gender is immature. The female gender is immature because black men are go-betweens, coolers, buffers. Well, what are we interfering with? What are we impeding on? What are we stepping in the way of? What are we intercepting? We are intercepting her ability to grow the fuck up. Well, what do you mean? How does that? I don't understand it. I hear you, but I still can't get it. We can't get our act together because our women are going to always pose a threat. Our women are going to always pose the biggest threat because we interfere with her growing up. Instead of telling her to get on the step ladder to get to the top of the cabinet and get it herself, she will call you in the room and say, can you get that for me? And then you, like a big old dummy, will reach up there and get it for her. Well, once women realize that they can bat their eyes and blush a little bit to get men to do whatever they want, black women no longer do it for themselves. They keep hopping the cock carousel looking for a man who will bend to her manipulative ways in order for her to get what she wants. Well, when you understand behavioral patterns and talking points, you will see in our community, the men are running and dipping and manipulating and doing all these other things to be able to get what they want. And they're willing to sacrifice the rest of us in order to get it. Now, I may have mentioned these men's names, but I also tried to throw in there other women's names, such as Tiffany Cross, such as Patrice Cullors, such as Lori Lightfoot. So both genders are sacrificing the community, the tribe. They're doing it different levels, different ways, but both genders are doing it. So when I speak and I'm trying to tie it in as a behavioral pattern talking point, whether you agree or disagree, we can't fix it until we first go after these groups. That's the answer. You either expose these groups for who they are and what they about, or you separate from these groups because of who they are and what they are about. And when these groups are caught out back, when you out there by yourself, you heard the H. Rap Brown speech. When you're out there by yourself, you're going to get done up because you're by yourself. I was listening to something. I'm still talking about the same thing. These are just examples. I was listening to Barbara Sizemore, and she was trying to explain collectivism versus individualism. And she used the United States Constitution. The United States Constitution in itself is for individual. So you can have the freedom of speech, the freedom and the right to bear arms as an individual, plus a host of other things as an individual. But then how is all of your freedoms protected? How do you protect whatever it is that Constitution gives? Do you protect it as an individual, or do you protect it as a collective? So if you're going to use the collective to protect the Constitution, by default, there are certain things that the collective is going to have to stand on. Now, you could go do your individual thing. They can't interfere with that. But if you have any grievances about whatever happens, you better not come back to the collective asking for help. Because the collective told you, we can't defend you by yourself. You're not an island. But if you're willing to listen to our rules, you're willing to listen to the rules, you're willing to do blah, 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 when the pressure comes, we got your back. When the heat is on, we got your back. So when I make those statements as far as your go-betweens or your buffer class, I'm explaining we have to separate from them because they're not for the collective of Black America. They're for the agenda of the dominant society. And the only way that we can cripple their power, interfere with their power, is when we hear their name, excommunicate. When we see an image, we have to denounce them. We're going to have to denounce them. You need to get your mind right, and you need to get your mind right. You need to get prepared for our civil war. Black America must have a civil war. Nature demands Black America have a civil war. Survival of the fittest demands that Black America has a civil war. Only the strong survive demands that Black America has a civil war. Warrior class, Zoo, rise up. Warrior class, Zoo, speak up. Warrior class, Zoo, show up. Waarior class, zoo, smoke 'em out. Peace, blessings, and black love.
In this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Death is better than bondage.
Fair Use Act disclaimer. This site is for educational purposes only. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research.